Hey, this is Steve Bloom, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
There's nothing wrong with your podcast player. Do not attempt to adjust the volume. Hello and welcome back into Studio 2009. I'm, of course, Steve and Mike. And for our latest Gamer Origins, today I welcome the Dragon Lord Kai from Kai Dragon Media. Hello, sir. How are you?
I am fantastic. It is a beautiful Saturday. Nice out with a crisp 60, which, of course, it's February, so it should actually be about 30, 40 degrees right now, and I should have a heater on. But no, it is perfect weather, which is making me question how my gardening's going to go this year. But, you know, it's like, it'll be interesting.
That's the middle of Kansas, folks. Meanwhile, here in Indiana, it's 29 degrees. So, yay.
So, you know, the fortune telling I'm going to say is it's probably going to be about 3 months of 100-degree weather this year.
Oh, absolutely. Probably going to have another 1 in 1,000 year heat advisory or whatever the hell that was back in 2020. Yeah. Oh my God!
Don't say record heats again this year, yeah. and like watch my electric bill go. Next thing you know, it's $400 again, like it was last year one month, because it stayed 115 for almost a month. And there, you go outside, it was still 80 degrees, and you're like,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't do heat well. I'd rather move to Antarctica.
Mm-hmm. We have to come up with a money-making scheme to get personal portable central air conditioners for people's bodies somehow, so that way everybody can have a CAC just on their person all the time.
Yeah, bodysuits. But then again, I think you're going to need that for your plants, too, because every year it gets that high, it burns my crops up. I've had 3 seasons of crops gardening since I started. Uh-huh. My first year and another half a year was successful. Last year, in the later part of it, everything burned to a cinder. So I'm having to try some new tactics this year to combat the heat, but it's not normal anymore. This weather's out of control.
Yeah, it is. So we are here to talk about video games and all that other good stuff. We're going to take Kai through the 30 questions all about video games and how his video game origin story started and how it's going currently. So, damn you, Chaos. I love her, but damn it, she put this thought in my head where the first question is like, that makes no sense. Why would you ask that if the person's on the show? I'm like, yeah, it makes sense because not everybody started at the same time. Anyway, did you grow up playing video games, and what were some of your earliest video game memories?
Oh God, you had to ask that one. Mm-hmm. All right, so I believe it was 1985. I was 5 years old. Let me confirm this.
You're 5 years old. You're a few months younger than me, so I know you were 5 at the time.
Yeah, let's see. It was the original system came out. I think it was 1985.
Yeah, it was.
Let's go 1985.
I don't remember the month, but I know it was 85.
So we were at Walmart or Wally World, depending on what you want to call it. And they had the Nintendo. It just came out. And they had this big case that had 20 different games, and you could just push a red button and it would flip to that game. And I was out there that day with Mom, and we were passing by it because she needed something for the store. So she was going to buy something from Sporting Goods because we had a bait shop back when I was younger. And I stop and I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, this is cool. So next thing I know, I'm playing Legend of Zelda and having so much fun, and the music's just catchy, and I'm just playing it, and Mom's like, well, I'll be right here. And she comes back by and says, you're still playing that? I said, this is fun, Mom. Can I get one? Can I get one? And she's just watching me, and next thing you know, that Christmas we bought the Nintendo Home Entertainment Center, and it was not like the 20 cartridge thing, which I'll get to that shortly. Played Super Mario Brothers, and I played Legend of Zelda.
You must help me, Link.
Hey, for you, Zelda, anything.
And Duck Hunt, and Hogan's Alley, and Wild Gunman. Wild Gunman was the funny one where you had to fight these bandits, and when you hit them, something always funny happened. Like their pants would fall down, or they'd fall on the ground, or something. It was funny. I played so much Zelda. I think I had Zelda beat in probably a month between going to school and everything else. Video games became something I enjoyed. Super Mario Brothers, we timed it back when, and keep in mind, this is back when there was no such thing as world records or anything. My dad turned on his stopwatch to see just how fast I could beat Mario Brothers, and I beat it in 20 minutes. Went from World 1-2, went to 4-1, went to 4-2, jumped up, went to 8-1, and beat it.
Yeah, and I know every quote unquote pure gamer is going to yell at the top of their lungs, that's not really going through the entire game. Well, of course it's not. But it's using warps. That's what they're there for.
Exactly. And in every Mario that I remember growing up, there was always warp whistles or pipes that took you somewhere. I mean, technically in Super Mario 3, you could collect 2 warp whistles right in the first world and warp out. And one was the castle, and the other one was
World 4. It was World 4. It was the
Super Mario 3. There was a block that you could fall behind, I think, to find the other warp whistle.
Yeah, no. So in I'm thinking the P-Wing is in World 4. In Mario 3, it's the desert is the one with the rock that goes behind, and it's the mushroom house. Because it goes behind where the castle is. It's like this third screen. Because the desert has 3 screens. I'm trying to think, is the second? I don't remember. Anyway, continue.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was okay. So it was 1-3. I was correct. You killed the you killed the Koopa Troopa. Send the white block. You go through it, and then you run to the end of the level, and there's a mushroom house hidden behind there, and you get the
right, and then it's the fortress. The fortress you fly up. Oh, okay, that's
I remember it.
I know you like.
My god!
As you were talking about 1-3. I'm like, oh right, 1-3, and then I'm like, right, and then. But
you are correct. The third one was in World 2.
Yeah,
and I also used that to farm stuff for fun. So I believe when you got to World 5 or 6, you could go through it all, get all the houses and get all the items. Warp again, you could go all the way back to the beginning of 5 again and go through 5 and 6. So you could sit there and farm Tanuki suits and stuff. So it was great. So yeah, there was different ways to do that, but it's funny that I still remember those. And I haven't played Mario 3 since probably 90s. So yeah, I still remember a lot of secrets from those games because they had such an impact on me. So I grew up as an only child, and my dad really never liked me having too many friends. I always worried somebody was stealing or snooping around his stuff. He was kind of a paranoid person. And when I was in school, I really didn't have any friends. My problem was I was a nerd. And I loved books. I loved reading. I loved video games. Video games didn't quite adapt yet around my early generation when I was a kid still. And the other thing with it was, being a bookworm and a thirst for knowledge, which was also because of Nintendo, which I'll cover that in a second. Nintendo was my babysitter. Mom had to work. Mom worked out in the shop. She was a stay-at-home mom, but she had a debate shop. So Nintendo was my babysitter for the most part. And what got me into a lot of history and everything was Nintendo. They had some games called Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Nobunaga's Ambition. One was about the 180 to 280 fall of the Han Dynasty, rise of the Jin Dynasty in China. And then Nobunaga's Ambition was about feudal Japan from 1560 to 1619. And they were strategy games. There was no graphics to them. You had troops, you had generals, everything was numerical based. But I remember reading the booklets and just reading all about these characters and then wanting to know more about them. And then Genghis Khan came out. And then next thing you know, that was my weird downward spiral into the library where I was reading every book I could in the children's section on all these characters, all these people that were historical. It was just an ahistorical game where you could change history. And next thing I know, I'm in the adult library section trying, Mom had to give me an adult card so I could get all these books of history of the world conqueror, the life of Genghis Khan, the life of Oda Nobunaga, Sun Tzu, the art of war. I'm sitting there reading these books in a second, third, and fourth grade, which was funny because I remember getting in trouble by a teacher in fourth grade accusing me of there's no way I could read at this level and write a paper at this level because I did a book report on some of the Genghis Khan books. And Mom had to go in there, defend me, and said, he didn't plagiarize. He goes, well, what do you mean? This is advanced. So she literally gave him the list of all the books I checked out at the library in the last 6 months. And he's like, huh? So my thirst for knowledge was through video gaming, believe it or not. And that's why I've always been very critical with people that always said video games are bad. No, some of it triggers mental desires to learn more knowledge. And that's what it did for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Very awesome. So besides Mario and the ones you mentioned already, what video games were you playing the most as a kid? Were you an Atari gamer, NES, obviously, Sega, or some other system?
Nintendo and Super Nintendo were my biggest two growing up. Sega had came out, but my folks didn't have a lot of money, so it was a choice between do you stay with Sega or do you stay with Nintendo? And around that time, my mom also started doing a buy-sell trade gaming store as well in the bait shop, which is weird. She was trying to expand ideas for the business. So we had all sorts of video games, but it was mostly Nintendo and Super Nintendo. So it was nice because I could use my allowance and go out there and buy a used game whenever. But I was also her unofficial tester. Like I test the games and make sure they worked correctly, and then we put them out in the market. So I got to try pretty much everything under the sun, and even the illegal Nintendo game. It was called Tengen Tetris. It was not Nintendo's Tetris. It was there was some big copyright with Tengen where it wasn't a sanctioned Nintendo cartridge or some crap. This was years ago, but you can still find them on eBay for ridiculous amounts of money because it's one of those items that after Nintendo won the lawsuit, they came out and made their own Nintendo Tetris, which was nowhere near as good as the Russian bootleg copy. And the reason I call it I believe it was Tengen and all that was from Russia because it had nothing but Russian music on it. And it was good Russian music. I like, you just have this orchestral music upbeat while you're playing it. It was like, you know what? I like this. And to this day, that one is still my favorite Tetris, even no matter what, Nintendo put out. But yeah, that's pretty much my brand. And then I got an N64. And around that time is about when I switched to PC gaming mostly. And until PlayStation, which would have been 1996 when I first played. And I remember that. No, 97, because I had moved back in with my mom at 97 because my folks split up in 96. And that's when I started doing PlayStation up till the end of the PlayStation 2 era.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, my era stopped at PS2. Once the controllers got too big, I was like, nope, out, done.
What burned me was PlayStation 3. Backwards compatibility, they promised all that, and then next thing you know, nope, took it away. And ever since then, I was mad. I stuck with my PS2 because I've had to replace my PS2 2 or 3 times because the red ring of death.
Yeah.
And I'd have to send it into Sony, and they'd give me a new one. But that was a constant problem with that system.
Yeah.
And I had too many fun games that I remember from there that I wanted to play.
Yep. Absolutely. The PlayStation 2 lineup, man, was just... Both 1 and 2's lineups were just so good.
Final Fantasy VII was my first one for PS1. And God, I played that for hours and hours. And that was one of the first games that did bring a tear to my eye when Aerith got stabbed with the sword. So
as a kid, what was your number one favorite video game?
Romance of the Three Kingdoms, strategy game. I tried to find every single one of them. They would release number 2 for Super Nintendo. Number 3 and number 4 would come out to Super Nintendo. But being in Kansas, it was hard to find copies of these games. It was extremely hard. I remember when we used to do buy, sell, trade, my mom would go to these pawn shops here in these bigger cities and hunt everywhere for stuff that could buy, make a deal on, turn around and resell, which, it was a great way to do that. And occasionally I would find one that I desperately was looking for, and I would say, Mom, can you please get that? I'll pay you back. And, and then I'd buy it from her. But it was hard to find some of those. I mean, the other one that stood out was Ogre Battle. It was another strategy game, which I think kind of created the birth of me being into nothing but strategy games at the time, and RPGs. I mean, I still play any Zelda that came out, but I remember I could be up Friday night after school playing Romance 3 Kingdoms 3 for Super Nintendo, or 4, be in my room, laying in bed from 7 o'clock that night till 3 or 4 in the morning when I passed out unintentionally asleep playing it. Yeah. And then I'd be up again and playing that as soon as I woke up. And, I'd go outside and play off and on, but I'd always come back to those. And I just loved those strategy games, which got me into later PC gaming with Warcraft, but
we'll get to that. Speaking of which, what are some other... This is just general, not as a kid, but just general. What are some other video games you like? Do you have a favorite video game genre or type?
Strategy, grand strategy has always had a place in my heart. The only problem with that is there's a lot of the game development has not evolved enough. And so there's very few of them. And sometimes they get to be too complex that it's hard to find people to play it with. And then other times it's not as stellar. Quite a point on here is Age of Empires 4. I played the hell out of Age of Empires 2 and 3. Age of Empires 4 has nothing on it too. And I feel like it was like 2 steps forward and then 5 back. And that's how it's been. And then Blizzard, I played Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. 3, I was a competitor. Me and my cousin, before we had a falling out, were doing 2v2s and tournaments all the time and stuff. We'd get fairly far, but we never really hit it to where we'd win. And So it was kind of disappointing at that point in time, but we played hard and, we were learning how to get our clicks per minute up there. And it's really freaking hard because you basically had to literally micro everything, have everything hotkeyed, have everything on like your mouse or whatever, and you're just basically hitting one and moving this and moving all over the map.
Ooh. Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
Okay, so we're talking strategy games.
Okay.
And so Warcraft, StarCraft were my big ones, but unfortunately, a lot of them just didn't evolve as effectively. Total War wasn't a bad one either, but problem with Sega with the Total War, well, I think it's Sega still.
Sega's still a company?
Yeah, Sega Feral Interactive is the publisher. Creative Assembly, Feral Interactive is the developer. So yeah, Sega still owns it. So the problem that I had with a Sega with Total War is they pulled the plug on stuff without finishing supporting on it.
Damn.
On some things. Like they had a Romance 3 Kingdoms Total War that I just absolutely loved. And then one day it said, we decided we're going to pull the project and we're going to focus on Total War Romance 3 Kingdoms 2. And we're like, what? And you should have seen the review bombing that happened after that. People were so irate because they had so much they could still do. They just gave everybody the middle finger. So my thing with strategy games is you have to try to scale it so it's learnable for everybody, but it's also difficult to master for guys like me that live to play those games. And sometimes that was more difficult to do. I mean, I remember when I used to go to college LAN parties, they all wanted to play StarCraft. And they kept asking me, I said, you sure you want to? And that was back when I was still really good with clicking and real, RTS, where, I'm coming off from being really, really good at Warcraft 3, which if you're good at that, you're good at pretty much any of those areas. And this is not trying to brag. This is not, it's because that's what I played so much of. And I remember going LAN party and we did a 3 versus 3. Everybody's turtling and I'm attacking everybody nonstop. And my team's just like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm having fun. I'd go in as Zergs and just rush right in. So you'd have all these Zerglings just, I'm like, we're not turtling. Sorry, guys. or I'd go in there and harass them with some drones or whatever, just to screw with their production. Or I would go Terran Marines and tanks and stuff and just walk right in and break their defenses. And my favorite moment on that is this guy started getting these carriers for Protoss, and I said, oh, we're going to do this. Okay, so next thing I know, I made like 20 ghosts, which are Terran, and I locked all his carriers down and they can't move, and then I just go, nuclear launch detected. Oops, no carriers.
Oh my god, that's
I'm like, oh, what happened to your carriers? So it got so bad, everybody started bailing because I just was destroying these guys. And one guy, I remember, he's like, I want a rematch. So we do a rematch. We do 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2. And he just kept getting beat down. He's like, I want to do a rematch. I think about the 10th match, I said, I really want to take a break. I was getting really bored because he just tried everything he could to beat me once. I'm just like, nah, I'm tired now.
Wow,
and
that's crazy.
So those are some fun moments that I remember with... So strategy has a big place in my heart. Now, today, since there isn't always too many strategy games out there that are worth anything, other than like Crusader Kings 3, which you've seen me play, survival became the new thing for me. Being able to plan bases, build traps, plan my moves if it's some type of tower defense or whatever. So that was kind of the genre I shifted. I still play a few RPGs, but that's kind of now and then and kind of where I'm at now with strategy and survival.
So you said you made the switch to PC. Is that how your gaming habits changed throughout your life? Is you switched to PC and just, went PC Master Race and never looked back at the crappy consoles?
Yes, 99. Well, roll back. Mm-hmm. Back when we had Windows 3.1, I played like Police Quest and a few other games, and that was, I think, that was early 90s. Really hadn't got too deep into it. I mean, I'd play Warcraft because I think Warcraft, the first one, was 90 or something. I don't remember off the top of my head. I just remember I was really young still, and I started playing that.
Mm-hmm.
And 1994. So I was 14. I just remember I was really young and still playing that. I really, truly didn't get into PC gaming until, I want to say 98 or 99.
Okay.
I got my first MMORPG called Ultima Online. It was the Mac Daddy of MMORPGs, the first one. I think RuneScape was out there, but I think everybody always considers Ultima Online the first one. And it was by Richard Garriott and Origin Studios that later got acquired by EA. Which, of course, when EA took over, they ran it to the ground, like everything they do.
Yep.
So, shortly after that, I was playing a lot of PC and got addicted to it to the point that became what I would do or look forward to when I got off work or got home, was I was playing on the PC. Occasionally, I would still play my PlayStation 2. There's nights I'd just binge on some PlayStation, but other nights I'd be playing online. And that's kind of when I shifted to online gaming, really.
Very cool, very cool. So how often do you go back now and replay any of the video games you grew up with?
Right now, very little. I would love to, but I would have to get everything set up. And unfortunately, my house is pretty small. And I wish I had a little bit bigger house because I would dedicate a room just to an entertainment center area, not just a living room. So I could pull out my old Nintendo and my Super Nintendo and all that. Because there's still ways to play those on the newer TVs. You just have to get certain connectors. But I would go back to them, but also with the advent of Steam releasing games that we played as kids, I've been playing a lot of those old games as they come out on PC. Which, for example, Sony just announced they're releasing all their old PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 games steadily over time to PC. So I'm going to be able to relive playing a lot of that stuff on PC.
Nice. That's awesome.
I wish Nintendo did the same thing. The only way you could do that, and there was a thing back that we did. A lot of us owned Nintendo games.
Right.
A lot of us had collections of them. But at school, we were bored in college. So we would put an emulator on our jump drive and put all the Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games on these emulators. And there was supposed to be no gaming in the computer library. Well, what did we do? We'd stick in the jump drive because we didn't install anything. And we'd sit there and play Zelda or Mario or everything. And next thing you know, two people kind of watched me and a couple guys doing this. The next thing you know, the whole library was doing it.
Yeah, it's been 30 years. It's no big deal now.
And laptops and everything. But, that was the one thing that I always thought was kind of sad of Nintendo. Yes, they occasionally released it on their Wii store, which Wii was shutting down. And I liked Wii. I just needed more room in my house to be able to do it because I love the concept of the Wii, especially with the Twilight Princess where you're sword fighting, and so you're moving your arms and stuff. I really liked that. But I hated the fact that Nintendo made it so difficult to play the old stuff and the accessibility of it, even if you own it. And so it was always frustrating. And, there was always rules. There was one point they said, as long as you own the game, it shouldn't matter. You should be able to just play it on an emulator. There was others that say you shouldn't be doing that. And it was one of those things that was really weird because if Nintendo had just decided to release stuff on PC, I think they would have had a whole market of sales because there was a lot of titles that they had. But no, I remember that years and years and years ago. God, that's been so long. That when I was in college at that time, and it was, that's what a lot of us were doing. And then, we'd play together on emulators. We tried playing Contra and got our asses beat down so bad on that. It wasn't even funny. I was like, holy crap, we've gotten too old. Because that was still one of the hardest games to play. Fun game, but very hard. And it was just funny that a lot of us, our reflexes just weren't as good as they were, even though you got Dark Souls and all these other advanced games. But a lot of those old games had more twitch reflexes you had to do than today's games. And it's interesting in that scale. But yeah, like I said, I don't know anymore. But it's been decades ago since I did it. But
like I said, the statute of limitations on that probably run out by now. Nobody's coming after you for something you do. Well,
yeah, but even back then, I know a lot of people did emulators.
And Steve has talked about it on the show before, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that I just wish Nintendo would have opened their catalog more because it's weird because you can show proof you own the game. Here's the cartridge. It's like, but it's weird how that worked.
Which video games that have released as you're an adult have you liked the most?
So, as an adult, I've really enjoyed Crusader Kings series. Crusader Kings 3 has been my favorite. It's basically about playing the role of a ruler, raising a family, building a kingdom, or trying to keep your dynasty intact. There's different ways to go about it. It has so much replayability. You can even make your own characters. Or you can take a historical character and see what you could do. And I think that stuff's a lot of fun. It has a lot of replayability. And then survival games. 2024 has been a strange year. Pal World and Shrouded kind of took really over my soul when it comes to survival games. Sons of the Forest just released here officially out of early access 2 days ago on 2/22 at the time of this recording. And it's been hella fun. Me and Stone were having so much fun with it last night. I was like, they have done so much improvements to that game. It's a game that I don't recommend for kids because it is gory. But it's another survival game with an ending. Not all survival games have an ending, but Sons of the Forest, you can play and beat the game and you're done. So there's a story after it, whereas like games like 7 Days to Die has no story, has no real beginning or end. You choose whenever you want to end it, or until the memory leaks get so bad your computer starts crying.
Oh boy.
That was kind of where I'm at. So I got into survival quite a bit, and those are the games that I can think of. Nightingale was a massive disappointment. I didn't even buy it. I saw some videos on it after I was reading the reviews. I was reviewing responses. And as on Kai Dragon Media, the Dragon Lair, we have talked about it, how I was so looking forward to this game. And it was as Obi-Wan would scream, "You are the chosen one!" Mm-hmm. That's how I felt about this. And when it came out and it was online only, and the combat was not as good, and they've pushed this back multiple times, and then they're saying they want to have it all done in a year and out of early access. To me, that's not a very good sign. And in a time where better games are coming out, like Palworld, 25 million copies, 25 million players, on a budget where they took $7 million to produce this game. $7 million. Whereas you have AAA studios spending $200 million on a game and they can't even make 1 million copy sales. What does that tell you, Mike?
The video game industry with the major companies is failing.
It is. It has been, and the AAA studios are so out of touch. But the problem is, all these companies have potential to make good games. If, number one, they tell their shareholders to piss off and hold on and just let them do their job. Number two, you need to hire CEOs, CFOs, people in operations that understand the product. You can't hire these out-of-touch shills that have never really understood the video gaming world. That is the biggest problem, such as the guy that, I know this is going to make your eye twitch, the guy that left EA and went over to Unity and ran that company to the ground. That's the problem with these suits. They bring in people that are not qualified for these positions, pay them absurd amounts of money, and they don't understand their customer. They don't understand the game. They don't understand what they're trying to do. And then when a game needs time to correct the problem, shareholders and everybody's screaming, well, we need revenue, we need sales. Where's this at? Where's this at? Problem is, indie games, they live or die by the sword. And when I say by that is, usually it's one person. Maybe it's a group of people. They have to bank on that game getting them income so they can survive or return the money that they have borrowed. Palworld, for example, was a niche idea. Very clever niche idea. And hopefully, nothing happens with Nintendo with them. But it was a clever idea where they could make a survival game with low budget and break record sales and has transcended Hogwarts Legacy and Starfield and the other big title last year, I think Baldur's Gate 3. And it's amazing to see this. And I feel like indie studios understand it better, but not all of them. Like this Nightingale thing, so that's kind of where I'm at and what I'm playing now. I know I kind of devolved on a tangent on that, but it was kind of wanted to and I wanted to share my thoughts on that. But
yeah, absolutely.
As somebody that does content creation by night and I do accounting by day and I'm in operations and stuff, that is the biggest problem, I think, with the gaming industry. And the gaming industry is hurting. It's not doing well. And they don't understand why. But the problem is guys like me can't ever get into these companies and fix them because we're just these low nobodies on the totem pole. So it's better almost to try to build my YouTube media empire kind of thing and try to really grow. That way, maybe in 10 years, I can turn around and start building a game company and other stuff. Yeah, sure, I'll be in my mid-50s, but at least I can show we can do this correctly, guys. We can give you guys what you want. We can try to bring it all together because we want the feedback of the consumer. We want to make sure we're doing this right. We want to build that world that you can get off work, immerse yourself in, and enjoy it, whether it's being a king, whether it's building a castle, whether it's flying a ship through space. You should feel like your money is well spent. You should feel like you can play this for thousands of hours and never get bored. And to me, a game is, man, I want to get off work and play this game. This game is so much fun by myself or with my friends. And when you turn it on, you forget about the world's problems.
Absolutely. That's the way it should be. Fortunately, that's sometimes not the way it is. So, which video games do you hate or have been greatly disappointed by?
Oh, you had to ask me this one.
Of course. I ask everybody this question.
Oh. Starfield. I'm still working on that review for Star Slime, but I have to finish the game to really be able to give you guys that. Starfield was one that I really hoped was the chosen one for space because there's 3 niches out there that are really undertouched. Westerns, space, and pirates. They had this game in production for 10 years. They had a lot of games to look at. Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, Empyrean Galactic Survival. They had so much stuff to look at and see what makes those games popular and try to retrofit it into their system. Try to do it. There's nothing wrong with taking ideas from other games and spinning it your own way. Unless, of course, you do something like Warner Brothers where they locked down the Nemesis system with a copyright so no one can ever use the Nemesis system. So a system that was freaking amazing is pretty much gone forever.
Oh, wow, that sucks.
The Nemesis system was the characters would remember the stuff that you did to them or whatever, and they would learn from you, and then they would try to beat you again. And they had specific hatreds and stuff. It was a cool system for Lord of the Rings, for the Shadows of Mordor game. But Starfield was the biggest failure for me because everything that we wanted in a space game, Todd, the great car salesman he is, told us, we're going to have this, we're going to have this. And turns out the game was nothing like it. It was like Fallout 4 with a little bit of Skyrim, with half-assed done space, with load screen simulator, and exploring these planets was not even fun because there was no life, no civilization. Sure, you'd scan the planet for blah, blah, but no fauna, no nothing. And it was a depressing world where there was like literally no civilization, no alien life, it was such a disappointment. And even the quests themselves really didn't have a good story to it.
Ooh. Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
So Starfield promised all this stuff. And to me, it was just a very bland world.
Yeah.
Now, people said, oh, well, its engine was good and all this. It's literally just the same engine they used for Fallout and Skyrim and stuff. There was nothing special in it. And the quests, the story was lackluster. Sure, there was the multiverse theory where you can go through at the end and go to different multiverses, but you lose everything when you go through it. So your ships, your outposts, anything that you had is gone, so you basically kind of start over. But outposts really didn't have any meaning unless you were just trying to grind items for experience. You couldn't make your own ammo. So all these materials you're gathering, to make space parts and all this, you still can't even make your own freaking space ammo, which is hilarious. Shipbuilding was not as diverse and flexible as it should have been. And the AI was so bland in space, you could have made yourself a hollow ship. What I mean by that is take out the center mass, take out everything there and make a giant cube with a hole through the center, and they won't hit you. Because the AI is not trained to aim for your ship. It's aimed for the center of what it appears to be your ship.
Oh, wow.
So at the end of the day, they really did not do well overall with that game. And it was surprisingly how blind people were to say it was like one of the greatest games ever. And, you know, even one of my shorts, I said I will never buy another Bethesda game again. And you were on that that particular stream.
Yep.
And I feel that way. I don't want to even touch Elder Scrolls 6 when it comes out. I feel like Bethesda bait and switched once for the last time. And, you know, fool me once, Fallout 76, which was the biggest train disaster ever in, I think, in a Bethesda history. And a lot of people say, well, it was a different studio, or there's 4 studios. You can defend a company as much as you want, but the facts present themselves that it was a failure of a game and the biggest lull train that was around for over a year. Sure, they turned around later on it, and I've tried it, and it's a lot better than what it was. But when you market something and you literally don't deliver, expect to burn your fans. Expect to burn anything. I mean, it pains me because I've always been somebody that loved Bethesda games since Morrowind, but I'm also not blinded by loyalty. Same with Square Enix. I love Square Enix, but I will call them out when I think they screwed up. That's the difference where a lot of people don't understand in gaming. You can have brand loyalty, but also call them out when they do the stupid stuff.
That's part of being loyal to the brand is you call them on their shit. Like, you love all the stuff they've done, but if they've done something stupid or something that doesn't work, then as a loyal fan, you need to call them on their shit.
Exactly. I agree 100%, but that's something that they forget.
Of course they do. Who is your end-all, be-all favorite character from any video game? You can pick one hero and one villain.
Ooh, that's interesting. So, video game hero. So, the reason I like Cecil from Final Fantasy IV hero is because he always had a sense of loyalty and justice, which kind of always reflected my values. Now, granted, his story was he started out the path of a dark knight and was just following orders for his king and all this and set up in a bigger thing. But he still loved people and would feel remorse and stuff for decisions that happen. And then later he becomes a paladin and learns about his past and still maintains that sense of value that he had, which was to his friends, family, and to the world to make it a better place. In my opinion, that's what made a very good character, and you could see the emotions and the portrayal of it with him. And I think that was probably one of my favorite characters. There is some that I could say that there's many good characters out there, but that one stood out to me the most, and probably the reason why I still played Final Fantasy IV many times over when there was no replayability for it. For the villain, the one that always stood out to me was Chrono Trigger's Magus, who, in my opinion, was a misunderstood character. I couldn't really consider him truly a villain. At the end of the day, more of an anti-hero. But he did stuff that was heinous enough that he was a villain. And basically, his whole kingdom, Magic Kingdom, got destroyed. He got sent into the future, into another world, grew up trying to find his way back home and trying to save his sister. His sister meant everything to him, and it was kind of no matter the cost, he was going to save his sister. Of course, later on, he joins the heroes to try to stop it all, and in the end, with the final Chrono Trigger ending they added later to tie it to Chrono Cross, it was futile, though, for him, because no matter what he did and the others did, the main villain of that could not be defeated. It was an interesting and sad ending. So I remember his sister, her last act, sending him to the future with no memory, which is always that whole theory that in Chrono Cross, this one character really was the Magus or Janus. But I think his devotion to his family and trying to fix the mistakes that happened in the past made him an interesting bad guy.
Very cool, very cool. Who are some other video game characters you like? Are there any you hate?
Cloud Strife was another good one that I liked. A lot of people didn't like it, but it kind of gave kind of an interesting ring to the concept of getting stuck in your own head. And the reason I mean by that is Cloud, when you play Final Fantasy VII, he lived a fake life and a fake persona, whether it be from all the scientific experiments done to him at the end, before the start of FF7, or the fact that he tried to be somebody he wasn't, trying to live in the shadows of his friend, and somewhere, somehow, it got so stuck in his head that he didn't even know who he was anymore at one point. And then he was able, with the help of somebody that loved him, come to terms that, okay, he really wasn't this person that he thought he was, and that he still was a hero and somebody valiant. It's just that he didn't have the same past. He just, and it proved that he was still powerful in his own right, but he wasn't Zack, which is what he tried to live in, is the shadow of Zack.
Okay.
Pretend that he was a soldier. So I think that was a good character for those that, you know, people try to live in some facade because they want other people to like them or to respect them because societal pressure. I mean, his was his love for Tifa. That was his biggest thing, and not wanting to let her down and let his family down. Villains. Well, as far as villains go, let's see. That's a tough one. There is a couple in my mind that I just can't stand, but trying to remember exactly which one that was. So I may have to pass on that one. That one I was not. That one's hard because I've played so many games over the years that I cannot, in good mind, give you a good one.
Okay. Who are some of your favorite video game voices and voice actors?
Steve Bloom.
Yep.
Come here. I'm the best there is at what I do, and what I do can't be imitated, copied, cloned, or used without the express written permission of the Superhero Squad and Marvel Entertainment LLC. Batteries not included. All rights reserved. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. We clear, bub. Yes, sir.
The ones when he plays that David Haydenson for... Not Ed Haydenson, Hader. David Hader.
Mm-hmm. For Snake. Yep.
For Snake. That one.
That doesn't sound right.
And then, trying to think of the other one. Well, I did like Kevin Conroy for Batman, but that's kind of a given on that one. But Steve Bloom's been in a lot of them. Holy hell, he's been a lot.
Yes. I think he has the Guinness record for it.
Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
He's an extremely talented voice actor.
Absolutely he is. Yep.
So I think I have to stick with that.
There you go. Did you ever own anything based on a video game? Toys, comics, etc., etc.?
Yes. Super Mario action figures, Super Mario posters, Legend of Zelda. I've had that stuff. Some Final Fantasy stuff. There was some Final Fantasy statues that I wanted to get of some of my favorite characters. Then they're action figures made really, really well done. But you're talking $200, $300 per one action figure. And that's just way above my price range. So maybe if I had a big studio and was a successful YouTuber and I could afford to do that stuff for the show, I would do it. But as just me right now, $300 is basically 2 weeks worth of food if you're trying to eat healthy. So I mean, yeah, there's some ones that I would love to get though.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your favorite video game theme song?
Oh God, there's so many of them. That one, there's a lot to go back to. Like, I love the Mega Man X4, X5, X6 intros. I love the Final Fantasy theme song. Final Fantasy IV has had so many really good intro songs that it's really, really hard to pick a specific one. I mean, this is how much of a nerd I am. I will sit there and listen to the freaking game soundtracks and intros to these games, especially when I'm not feeling the brightest or whatever. It just because I just rock out and vibe to this orchestra music to it, or a song with lyrics.
Yeah, I'm the same way when it comes to soundtracks and scores, but not just with video games, with movies, TV shows, whatever. I can always just escape into that music.
Yeah.
How big or small is your video game collection?
If I had my full collection, I have about 1,000 Nintendo games, 200 Super Nintendo games. I only had like 4 or 5 in 64 games. I didn't get big in that. 3 Wii games. PlayStation 1, probably about 200. PlayStation 2, you're probably looking probably about the same as PlayStation 1. If I were to finally able to get it moved into my house, because right now they're in storage,
right,
it would be a massive light. It would be cool to put on the back wall for my shows and stuff if I had room, but unfortunately here, no. So I've have them just in safekeeping for now.
When I asked Chaos that question, she's like, online or in real life? And I'm like, like, yeah, like
digital.
12 terabytes is what she said, or something like that.
Oh, digital, probably how many games but here's the controversy. I don't really own them, but I have about 200 PC games at least on Steam. And then PC games that have CDs, I think I have about 40 or 50 of them still. But yeah, that's that's kind of where I'm at with it. Cause
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, when she told me that, I was like, okay, you crazy. Which game or games have had the biggest impact on your life?
Nobunaga's Ambition, Genghis Khan, and Romance 3 Kingdoms. For the earlier thing where it gave me that thirst for knowledge and made me a super geek when I was a kid.
What was the most money you spent on a video game item ever? Example for video game items: print, art, book, poster, that kind of stuff.
Ignoring Starfield.
Yes, ignoring Starfield. Starfield.
Starfield because of that. Lunar Silver Star, the original collection item with the cloth map, everything, $80.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Well, it was because it'd been out for a while for PlayStation.
Okay.
1. It was a remaster collection edition because how Sega. Which one was it? The CDs. Maybe
Sega
it was
CD.
Sega CD. Maybe it was Sega CD. Failed and floundered on its ass. They brought it back out to PlayStation 1, and they did the full remaster and everything of it. And keep in mind, once again, not in an area that has access to a lot of that stuff. Found it in a game store for $80.
Wow, cool.
Best money I spent. I loved it. It came with a pendant and some other crap too. It's still in the box. Just hopefully nothing ever got ruined, because it's been in containers in my mom's house for the last 15 years. And the containers I've kept sealed, but you just never know.
Yeah, you just never know.
Unfortunately, if they end up getting a mouse or something, they eat through plastic. The totes and stuff. I hope, I'm crossing my fingers that's not the case, but unfortunately, getting access to that where it's at is almost impossible right now. So, if not, I'll probably spend $200 to get it all back. It was still one of the best ones I had. So,
well, I can clearly tell you, folks, the answer to this question is going to be no because of what he just said. But do you have a "my parents wouldn't let me play that video game" story? Nope.
Actually, there's one. There is one. Manhunt, where you are the murderer and you could kill people all sorts of different ways with a plastic bag or a baseball bat. My mom was like, I don't know if you should be playing this. This is gruesome. Because she watched me do all these killer moves on people.
Which system did that come out on?
I think it was PlayStation 2.
Oh, that tracks. I'm like, there's no way Nintendo would have released Manhunt.
So I remember shoving the glass to this guy's neck and blood shooting out everywhere. Mom's like, I don't really think you should be playing that.
I think you should be playing that game.
But you know what? It was fun. It didn't faze me at all because how everybody says.
Yeah, we can separate those. Yeah.
Because let me tell you something. If I can play that game, but if somebody's vomited or there's blood around me or anything, I'm squeamish as fuck. And it's like, get that shit away from me. So, when everybody says video games desensitize, no, it didn't desensitize me. That's for damn sure.
Yep. Absolutely. What is your opinion on the video game reboots and remakes? Which ones do you think have been the most successful?
Remakes, reboots. Opinion-wise here, Final Fantasy VII Remake is a reboot. It's a multiverse now. Rebirth is also a multiverse. I'm disappointed, but it is the most anticipated game this year right now is Rebirth, which should be coming out. I think it's out now, or the 29th. I can't remember. But
it'll be out by the time you people are hearing this episode in March. So. Yeah,
but it is one of the most anticipated ones because of the Final Fantasy fandom. And I did play Remake. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't my Final Fantasy VII. A lot of people wanted a Final Fantasy VII Remake with Advent Children graphics, or the graphics that they have for Remake. But the original game, no change in the story, none of that. But Square decided we were going to go with the Remake, Rebirth. It's all starts with R terms. I forgot what the third one possibly is. I don't think it's Revolution. Remake, Rebirth. It's something to do with being reborn or whatever is what it is. And there's supposed to be, I think, 4 games to it. So, you're going to wait basically 10 years for this at this rate. But I think that was probably the most successful as far as sales. But was it really needed? No. They didn't really follow what people wanted. Now people have enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed it what it is, knowing the original FF story and how everything's been kind of skewed out of reality. But Resident Evil remakes, I don't really think they were needed, but some people have enjoyed them with the upscale graphics. Pretty much, I don't really feel like any remakes are really needed to be done. You can update the graphics if you really want to, but it shouldn't be an outrageous price. As long as it's the still same gameplay, same characters, nothing censored, nothing changed, nothing taken out, and you're upscaling it, I'm on the fence on, because I feel like you still lose a little bit of that nostalgia factor when you do a remake or reboot. Whereas if I want to play Legend of Zelda 1985, yes, the graphics are way down, but that is nostalgia. Whereas if Nintendo did Legend of Zelda 1985 today with the current graphic system and stuff, you still wouldn't have that nostalgic feeling. Because it'd be more like a third person or first person live action kind of fight versus the old 2D top down kind of isometrics. So I don't. That's where I feel on that, and it's kind of the same with like any other entertainment. Cherish the nostalgia, bring back the nostalgia, but I think anytime you change it, it loses a piece of itself.
Exactly. Which video game series from the past would you most want to see more of, whether it be a reboot, a live-action movie, or any other form of media? So basically what this is, if they went from Super Mario Bros. 3 to Super Mario World, you don't count Yoshi's Island, if they actually did a Super Mario World 2, like, that's what this question is. It's like, which game from the past do you want to see more of today?
That's a tough one, because I have a thing about sequels and reboots and remakes that it has to pass a lot of tests. So that's really difficult. I'd like to see, and this is happening, but I'd like to see more of Final Fantasy IV, the story with that. And I know they're going to keep doing expansions. So that's a good thing, because the story has been good. And something about Naoto Yoshika, I think I just messed his name up. Yoshi P, as they call him. His team and them have really good storytelling with Final Fantasy XIV, and they saved that game from extinction when the original game came out. Final Fantasy has been an ongoing series that I like to see, but I feel like over the last several years, it's been losing its splendor that it used to have, because I think they changed too much from the formula. I know they're always trying to think outside the box and add new gameplay or something, but I think that also hurts the game. Kind of like, I think Final Fantasy 13 series and the 15 were not great when you compare them to the classics of 10, 9, 7, 6, and 4. So, would I like to see more? Yes. But am I very nervous about it? Yes. As far as any other sequels, anything, I think a lot of times the games as standalone should hold the test of time. And the only reason why Final Fantasy even has a numeric value is because that's what they just have always called the game. They could just call it Final Fantasy the
Spirit Within.
Yeah. it would just literally be that. I mean, but they've always had a number. But one series that now I'm thinking about, one series that I was pissed that they stopped was Capcom Mega Man series. I remember Mega Man, I think it was X8 was the last one, X8 or X7. Never understood what the hell was going to happen to Axel, because they showed a scene where like this goddess or something, Crystal or something, got in his head. I was wanting to see what happens. Now they say that they did a continuation, like some handheld games or whatever for Mega Man ZS or something, where Mega Man became the bad guy or was used or something. Zero was the main hero or whatever. The continuity got kind of all screwed up, but I liked the X series when I was playing it for PlayStation 2, and then they never finished that story. It's like at that point they stopped altogether. Because I wanted to see what was going on. Because at one point, they started just continuing the story. After about 4, that's when it became more story-based and everything had more of a story behind it. Like, 4 was really good because it was a love story with Zero and Iris, and they were on opposite sides, and at the end, he has to fight her to the death, which really, it really broke his heart. Then in 5 and 6, you had continuations of things, which was a long ongoing plot. And then 7 and 8, yeah. So 9, we never did get 9.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I look at Mario. Mario 2 was weird, but you look at Mario Brothers to Mario 3 to Mario World, yeah, they're all 3 very different games, but they're all very different adventures that the characters went on, Mario, Luigi, all them. And Mario 3 and Mario World are kind of similar a little bit because they both use the map thing, and I don't know, I kind of want to see another one of those kind of things. I know we've had Mario Galaxy and Mario this and Mario that and Sunshine and whatever is on Wii now. I don't even know what's on Wii now.
Right.
Nintendo's going wee all the way home.
Wee.
That's right. That's right. What is your opinion of the video game sidekick? Even though I know he's not a sidekick, but Luigi, Tails, Clank, etc. Those types of characters. Love them, hate them, don't care.
Clank made Ratchet.
True.
You can't have Clank without Ratchet.
I know, but like I was, I know.
So when you're saying that, you got to have him. You got to have him. Luigi, could be a standalone from Mario if he really wanted to. I mean, like you have Luigi Mansion and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't really see Luigi as Mario's sidekick. Right, I always seen him as like. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, those are just examples. I mean, maybe I should update those examples to like Toad and what I can't. That's the problem. I can't think like.
Yeah, Tails. Toad. Well, not even Tails. Tails became a main character too, in some of them. Even Diddy Kong with Donkey Kong. So here's the thing with gaming. I see a lot of the sidekicks, if they become beloved enough, they end up becoming some sort of main character. So if it's beloved enough, and I think even Clank had his own game at one time in the Ratchet and Clank series. So in my opinion, it's still, those sidekicks are very important, because if you have just a character by themselves going out and saving the world or stuff, sometimes it's impractical because it's all the people around your character that make it happen.
Yeah.
So side characters are just as important. It's just how they're portrayed.
Yeah.
And so I think they're important. And they also get their own spin-offs. I mean, think of, for example, Resident Evil 2, you had Claire and Leon.
Mm-hmm.
One could be considered the side character of the other, but then you also had Ada Wong, that was a side character of Leon's side, and eventually Ada had some gameplay of her own and some. So at the end of the day, if the character is successful as a side character, you usually see them grow and become main characters at one point or another, or they just stay as a beloved side character that everybody loves, like Toad. I don't see Toad really having his own adventure, but you can always expect him to be that dependable little mushroom that's always there to support Mario or Luigi or the princess.
Absolutely. And the rest of the little Toads are just cannon fodder for Bowser.
Pretty much. Sad but true.
In your opinion, which decade represents the golden era of video games and why? 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, or now 2020s?
80s through 90s was the golden era. I'm going to cover 2 decades, and the reason why is because games were complete back then. 80s and 90s, you got what you got. Done. Nothing more and nothing less. So that means you had to have accountability. You had to have a complete game. You had to have it practically bug-free. You had to be ready to market it. And out the door it goes. And that was the era that revolutionized gaming and created a generation of X, generation of the millennials, into the gaming world. That was our era. Now, you could say Atari was behind that, but Atari really didn't push the scale too much up until Nintendo. And then you had the arcades going to all these places where these big arcades and flashy Turtles in Time, the original Ninja Turtles. You had all those games on top of that. That was the golden era. You realize that back when we used to have arcades, that was where people would go to socialize, to find their fellow nerds.
Yep, absolutely.
That was where a lot of us gamers used to go and meet people because we had nowhere else to go.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
80s and 90s, I know that defeats your question on that.
No, it's true.
But those 2 eras, they're unmatched. Once we hit the 2000s, the pendulum shifted, and I feel like slowly we've been on the downturn in the gaming because developers, publishers have gotten so sloppy on all their products and half-ass and stuff that we've been in this constant battle and entrenched as a consumer versus these publishers about what is a good game.
Yeah. Absolutely, which is going to come up here in a minute. But yeah, you're right. And that's the fate. It's just the way it is, both decades. And when we got to the 2000s, like, everything changed because by then online stuff was getting better and better, and it just shifted. It shifted to online. It wasn't really, hey, let's go to the arcade, or hey, I have the latest console, come over to my house, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't any of that anymore. It was like, hey, get this, PC laptop or whatever and get online and play a game, whatever.
You're online, here's my Sony code or my Xbox code or all that. Yep. And that's also the time, in my opinion, where developers, publishers got lazy because they realized, we can just use the internet to patch it.
Yep. And it leads into question 23, as you're saying that. As gaming has evolved, what has been your greatest likes and dislikes in the video game industry?
Well, we don't have to really go too deep in that.
Nope.
But the laziness of AAA publishers, the ones that were the backbone of gaming in 80s and 90s, that went downhill, and they are completely out of touch and have no idea what makes a good game anymore. And they are still continuing to look around, I don't know. And they're so confused about it. And it's like, good Lord, guys, you had the keys to the kingdom, and you blew it.
Absolutely. Some people in the 80s used to say video games are something for children and don't view gaming as a serious form of media that adults should consume. Who should video games be made for, in your opinion?
Everyone. And I can think of one person that had pissed me off one time when he said something stupid, and that was Joe Rogan. where he said, well, people shouldn't be playing video games. You should be learning Taekwondo or all that crap. This was said a couple years ago, and I'm thinking, dude, you have no idea, and you're out of touch with reality. Yes, should people go out and touch grass? Yes, absolutely. You should go stand outside and get some sun once in a while. Go listen to the birds. But gaming is ingrained into our culture now because it's stress relief. It's something to keep our mind occupied. It shares a community. There's a lot of gamers out there that want to play stuff, and we've bonded over gaming. We became friends over gaming. It's brought a lot more people together than they realize. Now, is there always bad people in gaming too? Absolutely. But that's the same thing in the real world too. Nothing has changed as far as persons' cultural behaviors. Now you're going to have the old boomers, as I want to call them, and we're going to have some Xers that really never, they're more leaning towards the boomer era than my generation of Xers that are going to say, oh, video games are the problem. And it's like, no, they really aren't. You know, I can get a $50 game or $30 on Steam, depending on what it is. And I can play it for 100 hours. Do you realize how much entertainment value that is compared to going to the movies and spending the same amount of money for 2 hours of entertainment? It's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
It is a huge difference. Or going out to eat, which was a thing in the past, but now you go out to eat, you go out with a friend, you spend $40.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm talking about for two. Now, if it's just you, you're probably going to spend 20. I mean, and to me, it's not worth it as it used to be. I would rather cook a home cooked meal, sit down on a computer, turn on my Discord, hang out with my community, play some games with them, or stream games or talk about this stuff versus really doing anything else other than gardening. I mean, during this spring and summer, gardening is my baby too. But beyond that, why would I care?
And I mean, Nintendo kind of changed the game a little bit with the whole kids inside and not. They changed it with Pokemon Go. As much as I don't really care about that game got everybody, children, adults, everybody outside. Everybody outside, walking, going to play, because they're like, oh, you got to go here to catch this. You got to go there to catch that. You got to stand upside down in the Eiffel Tower to catch this thing or whatever. You know, so I mean,
and there was games to get you to do that. Granted, I think Pokemon Go also created a lot of danger by doing that. Hey, let's go catch this rare Pokemon in one of the worst parts of town. It's like, maybe not.
That Snorlax can keep on snoring in the ghetto. Thank you very much.
What's that? We have a bunch of guys firing shots at us because we're in their territory, their gang area. Whoa! I just want to collect Pikachu. Go away. No. So, all humor aside, it was a good thing to get him out there, but it was also a bad thing.
There were negatives, yes, but in general, it was good. It was a thing of, oh, you can play video games and be outside at the same time. And yes, technically some of the listeners may come back at us and say, oh, but you could do that before with Game Boy. Yeah, you could, but Game Boy, before it went to color, Game Boy, you really couldn't see in the sun.
No, that is true. Even a lot of the handheld games that you have, and even with your phones, you still struggle to see stuff in the sun.
Yeah, I don't know though. Phone brightness has been getting up there. Like
it's getting better, but still, at the end of the day, if I'm in bright sun, hell, even my phone, but I'm on an Android 10, so maybe they've advanced it by then. I don't know, but like I said, Game Boy Advance, the PSP. You were in sun, you were toast. You had to go find shade. You just couldn't do it. Not to mention you start cooking your device because that sun loves to cook it. So
cook those batteries into battery acid. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, we are now entering the gamer fantasy funland. If you could own any vehicle featured in a video game, which would it be?
Huh, that's an interesting question. I would want the Falcon from Final Fantasy VI. And the Falcon was an airship. My own airship to fly around Earth would be amazing. Granted, I imagine everybody would be screaming at me because I'm violating airspace, but...
Yeah, probably.
I'm just saying.
This Kai breaking the sound barrier once again.
Now, if it was space, the Normandy. Give me the Normandy from Mass Effect and space. You know what? You guys can keep Earth. I'm going to go explore space. Screw y'all. I'm out.
That's funny. If you could live in any video game world that you wanted, where would you live?
Video game world, honestly, would either be Hyrule from Zelda or the Mushroom Kingdom.
Very cool, very cool.
Hey, paisanos, it's the Super Mario Brothers Super Show!
I'd like to know one good reason why I even stay here. Oh. Okay, so there's one good reason. Looking good, princess. Especially from this angle.
Oh! Who would be your top 3 gamer pals to join you and become a quartet? Examples, Mario, Sonic, Solid Snake, etc.
Oh, God. With my singing, I don't know.
I love that that's your reaction. Chaos's reaction was, who is Solid Snake?
Well... Sure, let's go with Solid Snake because I've always liked Solid Snake, and let's go with Link, and let's go with Ratchet.
There you go. Very cool, very cool. If you could date any video game character, which one would it be?
Holy crap. Well, on one hand, Elden Ring Ronnie, because holy crap, even though she's a doll, well, maybe is she a doll? She's like the goddess of the moon. But there's some funny things with that, considering she's got like multiple arms. So I don't know. So if I was going to go with someone a little bit without all the extra.
Wow. Damn.
Probably Princess Zelda.
It's me, Zelda.
Oh, yeah. I almost forgot. After saving the Triforce from evil, the hero gets his reward. Ow!
Don't you ever whistle at me again.
I may never whistle again, period.
Don't you ever clean in here?
Excuse me, princess. If I'd known you were coming, I'd have asked the moblins to sweep up before I zapped them.
There were moblins in here? When?
About 10 seconds ago. About, 15 of them. Armed to the teeth. Naturally, I fought them off, risking my life to save the Triforce and your kingdom. But I don't expect any reward. No, sir. Just a smack in the face is enough for me.
Oh, Link, I'm sorry. But you made me mad.
No kidding.
Anyway, this is the 3rd attack by Ganon this month.
What is the holy grail of video game artifacts? Fire Flower, Mega Buster,
Master Sword. Always the Master Sword. You cannot beat that sword.
We're now exiting the gamer fantasy funland. There's one piece of advice that you'd give the video game fandom in general.
Stay true to yourself. Don't settle for garbage. And be vigilant against publishers that will take advantage of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to head on to a quick ad break. You're going to hear the lovely Z Chaos Queen as she tells you how you can be on the Gamer Origins, and then some ads will play, and we'll be back to close the show right after this.
Would you like to be on the Origins episodes here at Studio 2009? Send an email to feedback@geekcastradio.com. With the subject line, Gamer Origins Guest Spot. You must have 1 year or more of podcast experience, have a good mic, and be on Skype or Discord.
Edit point. All right, we are back here inside Studio 2009. Any final thoughts from you, sir, before I run through the closing?
Definitely check out Geekcast Radio. They are great, and I love working with TFG1 Mike and Steve Megatron. The guys are awesome.
And where can people find you on YouTube and all that good stuff? What do you got going on?
www.youtube.com/KaiDragonMedia. And that is KAI Media, or KAI DragonMedia.com.
The link will be in the show notes, folks.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to spell his own name anymore.
Yeah, I forgot how to. That's okay.
Oh, it's that 5-armed chick. She's got him distracted.
Yeah, she does. And she's going to distract Mike in a minute.
I don't need anybody else. Nope. Nope. All right, gamers, as always, we want to thank you for joining us here at Studio 2009. If you'd like to get in contact with us, leave feedback for the show. There's several ways to do so while I breathe. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, as Kai said, where you can listen to and comment on all of our content. Send us email to feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can check us out on any of the podcatching clients you choose to use. I prefer Spotify, but that's just me. Follow us on Twix, because I refuse to call it what it used to be called, since it's not called that anymore. And what the idiot named it now, it's stupid, so I call it Twix. It's at Geekcast. Oh, what?
That's a good name, honestly,
right.
for it. Twix, I hate calling it X. I still call it Twitter.
Yep. It's at ITS Studio 2009, all one word for the show. You can follow at Geekcast Radio for the network. I am at TFG1 Mike. You're on Twix, right?
Yeah. Twix, too.
All right. Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Geekcast Radio Network. You can also check out Studio 2009 over there, as well as Kai Dragon Media. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Studio 2009 and wish you'll join us next time when we will be talking about something. I don't know what the hell's happening. What is going on next time? I don't even know anymore. Oh, right. We're continuing our 12 months of Star Wars spotlight with Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
You know, Mike, when you were saying that, I felt like this is the part where if I could go upside down and stare at you inverted, I would have, and just like, are you okay? Are you okay? No. I was looking at really, you.
No.
Like, what? You forgot what he's doing.
Right. Well, partially because I forgot what I was doing is because the script, I copied this script from a different script, and I never changed the names for the other handles, which I need to do.
I thought it was the picture I sent you to distract you.
Oh, no, I haven't even seen that yet. So luckily, it wasn't you. It was just me. Nope.
I was like, well, okay.
Nope.
Oh, my.
For now, I am TF2 and Mike with
Kai Dragon Media.
You were listening. Until next time. And oh, yeah, unleash the gamer geek in you. See you later, folks.
Later.
Nice job, hero.
Hey, excuse me, princess.